Hi everyone, this is Andrew from Torn Reels. I have a special guest here. We're at Fan Fusion. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Steffan Collins. I'm the co-owner of Arizona Filmmakers and the co-owner of Influence Studios, a brand new 7,000 square foot studio in Glendale, Arizona, that we have things from photography walls to cinema sets to psych walls. So anything you need from photography to films, if you want to do a movie, we have it all there.
Perfect. And thank you again for taking the time interviewing with us. So I wanted to ask you a couple questions if you don't mind. Okay. So as an owner of a film studio and everything like that, and I'm assuming you made films yourself, right?
Correct.
What is one of the hardest parts of making a film?
The hardest part of making a film, I would say for me personally, is pre-production. Because if you don't do pre-production right, you're going to end up going to the actual film and a lot of problems are going to happen, from schedule conflicts to just people not understanding exactly what their roles are and what they need to be. So pre-production is the hardest, but also the most important part of filming, because when people get everything they need and show up to the film set, they are able to work to their best ability without complaining that they don't know what's happening, trying to talk to the AD or bringing people outside of their positions to try to figure out. So that will be the hardest, but the most fulfilling part is definitely the pre-production.
Perfect. That's why I was wondering. One of the other questions I was wondering is, how do you promote yourself and to get out there if you make a new film?
So there's different ways how to go about it. I haven't written my own movie and shot it yet. I'm still in the works of 2 short films and a feature down the road, but eventually I will begin to that point. But the biggest way to go in, are you trying to say like fund your own film?
Yeah, like fund your own film or anything, or find funding for your film in general.
So finding funding, there's different resources from like the APA. They have different things on their website where you could apply and try to get your film out there. There's everything from sending your scripts into different production companies, and hopefully one of them will pick it up. And then a lot of times it's just understanding what your film is and understand that your first film is not going to be a Marvel film. Like you're not going to get $5 million to shoot your first film.
Man, I was excited for that, man.
But it's just understanding that like your first film should really be what you could budget and what you have in your own control, and just make sure all the fundamentals of a good film is there. And when you start doing that, you're able to work bigger and bigger. And when you start to send it out to different production companies, they might not see a $5 million film when you send them, but they could see the makings of a great film based off of what you have done with that budget.
Okay, that makes sense. And let me ask you another question. Since you just made a studio yourself, right? You
Correct.
said, how long? How long did it take you to make that studio? If you don't mind telling me. And 2, has anyone contacted you to try to do any films or like big films or anything like that?
Yeah, so we bought our studio, which was just an open warehouse back in March. And they told us it would be about 6 to 9 months to get everything up. Well, we busted our ass. Are we allowed to?
Yeah, I know, that's fine.
Right,
we cuss all the goddamn time.
All right, perfect. We bust our ass basically, and we got the studio open in 9 weeks.
Okay.
So we brought everything down, made flats, painted the walls, did every single thing that needs to do to have a successful studio. And since we've made it, we've been reached out to by 4 different films, and we've already had 2 short films already shooting there.
Really?
So in the middle of making the studio, we were able to talk to a couple films, and they chose to ask for certain rooms to be done, and we ended up doing those rooms first so that they were able to complete their film and then go. So we've already had 2 films that were completed in there, 2 short films, with more on the way, especially at the end of the summer.
Okay, perfect. And then I have a couple more questions, and then I'll let you go, okay? Because I know you're kind of busy. So this is a film review podcast. So let me ask you, what is your favorite movie?
So I don't have one favorite movie. It depends on the genre. For
Okay.
me. Like action, sci-fi, Matrix. I'm just grew up with the Matrix just because my dad was a big sci-fi guy, and the Matrix, the first one, just has a good place in my heart. But also the Phantom Menace.
Oh yeah.
People always hate on it, but when I was a kid and I saw the pod racing scenes, like I was blown away. When it comes to like comedy or like satire or anything, it's Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, I love that one too.
Yeah, so that's a really good movie. And then I'm a big fan of movies that make you think. So like I can't think of it.
Interstellar?
Interstellar's up there for me, but the one with Leonardo. the dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. Inception.
Inception. That's what it's called.
Inception.
Thank you.
So that's a big. Interstellar is probably my favorite thinking one, and that's my wife's also. So like we definitely watch that more than once, like every other month.
Now let me ask you another question, if you don't mind, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to.
Okay.
What is the worst film you've seen?
The worst film I've seen.
The one where you're like, I don't even want to watch this anymore.
M. Night Shyamalan's Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. I'm so
out-
glad you said that.
I walked out of the movie theaters watching that because that's the perfect idea of when someone takes not original IP, but someone takes someone else's IP and just decides to change it where it makes no sense.
No, at all. Zero.
If something doesn't need to be changed, don't change it.
That's what I said.
If there's a cool place where you can add more to it, but if you're not adding more to what's already placed there, you're just killing it, especially for the diehard fans, because I'm a big anime guy as well.
Me too.
So like when you took, even though Avatar's not anime, but it's in the anime world.
It's in there.
Yeah. But when you take that and you have majority of your tickets are people that watch that, and then you go and just
fuck it up,
then yeah, that.
No, that was honestly one of the worst films I have ever seen. I think we reviewed the show. The show was pretty decent. It wasn't like wow.
It wasn't
perfect.
But
exactly. It was good, but the movie though, the Avatar, the movie, we mentioned it in the podcast that it was one of the, to my opinion at least, one of the worst movies ever created.
Oh yeah.
And it's wild, you know.
It's funny. We're looking up. I had a weird debate with a friend about M. Night Shyamalan, his movies. I don't want to go too deep into that, but
you can if you want.
We were looking up all his movies, and he actually doesn't even show it on his IMDb credits or anything.
Oh wow!
So I think it's so bad that he even tries to take his name away from it, even though it's printed in big bold on the top of it. M. Night Shyamalan.
Well, he was proud of it when he first made it. When he first made it, he was like, "Let's go!"
Yeah,
it's an
until
Avatar.
The release day, and then he was like, "Never mind. I don't know who did that." But
I don't know who that is. Who's that? You know?
What's your worst movie?
My worst movie is that one too, and then oh my goodness, what was it? The worst movie? Oh, Warm Bodies. I don't know if you've ever heard it.
I didn't. That's Megan.
I don't know who
Megan Fox?
No.
I'm thinking something else.
No, so what it is it's a zombie movie, right? Where the zombie turns back into a human because it's like a Romeo and Juliet film. And it was just terrible. So my ex-girlfriend tricked me, right? She told me, she was like, it's a zombie movie. I was like, say less. I'm there, you know what I mean? And she failed to tell me that it was like a love story. So I'm sitting there like, I got the tickets for free and I wanted my money back. That was how bad it was. I was like, I got it for free and I want my money back. So that has to be the worst film I've ever seen. My favorite film of all time, besides Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and everything like that, has to be Dawn of the Dead.
Okay.
Dawn of the Dead, to me, the practical effects, the CGI, whatever it is, they did it so perfectly and they made you care about characters that were just side characters, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So to me, that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. I would also throw in there Get Out.
Get Out?
Jordan Peele is my favorite director because, I mean, how old are you?
I'm 26.
26, so I'm 32. And I mean, me growing up, like, back in Washington, like, being a nerd wasn't, like, there was a stereotype about who was being black and being a nerd.
Right.
And if you were a nerd, you couldn't, like, it was a clique. Like, we couldn't have things like this without people making fun of us. So, like, I feel like Jordan Peele has a good twist of making, like, nerd sci-fi stuff,
right?
But it's towards the black culture, but it's not like in your face, like, you know what I mean?
Racism.
Like, it's not like a Spike Lee movie, or it's not a gang movie. It's not a drug movie. It's just a normal movie which just happened to be around black people.
Right.
So that's a big reason why I like.
That's good. Is he one of your inspirations?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Is that what you're trying to base your films off of whenever you make them?
Yeah. So I mean, my first film, I'm trying to have it. Like Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, and Atlanta. That's a big inspiration of how I like the comedy and everything. And so a mixture between him and Jordan Peele will probably be what my short film and my movie will be based off of.
Awesome,
where it's going to be a good comedy with kind of that satire humor that's like more towards the nerdy crowd, but at the same time, like it's still like either coming to age type movie or just like some type of sci-fi movie because I grew up watching sci-fi.
Right, me too. Me too. One thing I wanted to say is I know you like Get Out. My favorite, at least my favorite one was Us. It was a really good movie. However, I do have to say though that I feel like Sinners is what Jordan Peele should kind of do, like the type of movie that he could do. But that's just my opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the horror that the Sinners had, compared to what Jordan Peele has made. However, Jordan Peele and his merits and his films are wonderful as hell.
Oh yeah. Like there's nothing against Us. 'Cause,
No.
I mean, I love all his movies, but Us is I like Nope is my second favorite.
Right.
So I'm Get Out, Nope, and then Us. And I think you're not the first person I've heard say that Jordan Peele should do something kind of by Sinners. But I also believe that like Sinners had a special place in Ryan Coogler's heart because it was based off his cousin that passed away. That was from
really?
His cousin, brother, uncle that passed away from that area, and that was a big like representation. So I like that they could be separate and they could do their own style of stuff, but I wouldn't be, if you told me Sinners 2 was going to be made by Jordan Peele, I would buy tickets before they even go out to sell. So, you know.
Me too. All right, man. So we just had time for a short interview. Is there anything you would like to plug in before we head out?
If you guys are interested in anything in the Arizona film industry, please follow Arizona Filmmakers. We're a community of people that are just trying to help other people that may not have gone to film school or done any other type of avenue to get into the film industry, a way that they can connect with other people and find their way in the industry. And if you want to see what we're doing, follow Influence Studios, AZ on Instagram. And my Instagram is Director Ness, Director_NES. So if you want to follow me in any platforms, that's the way to do it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Everyone, that was Torn Reels, and my name is Andy again. We're at Fan Fusion. I hope you enjoyed the podcast or the interview that we had. Hope you have a good day. Hi, everyone. This is Andy from Torn Reels. We're here at Fan Fusion in Phoenix. We're trying to interview people. We have a special guest here. Would you care to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jared Mercier, and I am a DGA assistant director in Hollywood.
Wonderful. So, I came here to thank you again. Thank you for your time to interview with us. I have a couple questions to you for you, if you don't mind. Let me ask you. Okay. So first, you're an AD. You said, what is the hardest thing about being an AD that you had to do?
Honestly, probably the hardest part is a life-work balance. I mean, we're looking at 16-hour days, 100-hour weeks kind of thing, and trying to figure out how to manage those long working hours as well as having a family and having a social life outside of work. And I would say that's probably the biggest challenge. I think the work in and of itself is not necessarily difficult work. As an AD, it's a lot of it's a lot of information-based work and knowing who people are and where they are and that sort of stuff. I often tell people that when you're just starting out, one of the things that you can do to be of real value to the ADs as a set PA is in Harry Potter, there's this thing called the Marauder's Map.
Yeah.
And the Marauder's Map, for those who don't know, is a map of Hogwarts, the school, and on it is each person and where they are at any given time and where they're going and how they're moving around. So if you can have that in your head, you can be of a lot of value on set. And so that can be, so you're on all day kind of creating a Marauder's Map of the set all day. You're doing 16-hour days of thinking like that all the time. It gets very exhausting.
Right.
Like mentally exhausting.
I bet. I honestly bet that. I have worked with you before, and I've seen you work up close and personal, and believe me, it's amazing. It's extravagant because you guys are always like locked in. Let me ask you a question. What is your favorite movie?
The Lord of the Rings.
Oh wow, me too. That's awesome. That's so cool. What about the Lord of the Rings did you like?
I think the immersion into another world is so well done. I think like the way the story is told, the way it's cut, the music, the way all the elements come in together, you really disappear and forget you're watching a movie. Yeah. And you spend 12 hours in Middle Earth, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
And
if you're watching the extended versions.
That's the only version.
Right. That's what I said. I always tell people if you're a coward, you watch the regular version.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But if you're a fan, you watch the extended.
Well, every year we do an annual Lord of the Rings marathon at my house.
No way.
We do the 7 meals of the Hobbits throughout the day.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So like
that is so cool.
So we start at 10 a.m. and you do breakfast and then start the fellowship and then
second breakfast
at 10 when they're having the council and then 11sies when they're going on the river for with the lembas bread and all that.
What made you want to do that?
I had like read about it on the internet or something, and I was like, these movies are important to me. I had heard that like some filmmakers watch their favorite movie every year. Like somebody's like, I can't remember who, it was somebody who said that The Godfather was their favorite movie and they watch it every year. Christopher Lee's favorite book, Christopher Lee, who played Sauron in Lord of the Rings, his favorite book was Lord of the Rings, and he read it every year, and that was something that he did. And so for me, the Lord of the Rings is probably the Peter Jackson film is probably my favorite piece of media of all time, and I watch it every year almost as a religious ritual.
Me too.
You know? And I just love it, absolutely.
Now let me ask you a question. How did you feel about the Hobbit movies?
I thought that the Hobbit movies were different enough from the Lord of the Rings movies that accurately reflected the difference between the Lord of the Rings books and the Hobbit books, right? And I think that where some fans get upset with how the Hobbit movies turned out, I think that the original source material was always a little goofier, a little sillier, a little not such high stakes.
Right.
You know, it was more about like riches in a mountain and not about the end of the world.
Right.
Right. And so I think the content of itself was hard to, make so that it really felt like a prequel or a sequel to Lord of the Rings. Because even the books feel different in tone. You know what I mean? Do you see what I'm saying?
I get what you mean 100%.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, not gonna lie, that I didn't like the Hobbit movies.
Okay.
I was like, I feel like it could have been made way better because the Lord of the Rings was extravagant, as we all know, but the Hobbit movies felt lackluster.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm personally on that side where like,
Yeah, well, I think that's how I feel about the books too, right? I think that the Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, is much better than the Hobbit. Like the Hobbit's great, and the Hobbit has its place, and it's very important as part of the world. But I think that Lord of the Rings was always better and was always going to be a better movie.
100%. 100%. I have two more questions before we head out. As an assistant director, and this is a question I've always had asked before, do you ever bump heads with the directors themselves?
Of course. Yeah.
What about usually?
Safety.
Safety?
Yeah. Or
safety, just don't kill people.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, a director's job is not. I mean, a director's job is to make the movie good, and it's my job to make the movie safe and on time. And oftentimes I would get in conflicts with a director where we needed to move on because we were running out of time, and the director wanted to do another take or wanted to, didn't feel that it was right. And then that puts me in an awkward position where I'm pinched between the director and the producer, where the producer doesn't want to spend any more money, and the director thinks it's not good enough and we need to spend more money. So I have to get those two together to make sure that I'm backed up by the producer, that we have to move on, we have to be done.
Right.
I made a joke about safety. I think that, it's my job as a first AD to keep the director's mind focused on safety so that they might be focused on how cool the stunt's gonna be or how this is gonna look or how things are gonna go. And oftentimes I have to be the bearer of bad news and say, I think that is creatively amazing and would make the movie really great. We don't have the ability to do it safely right now. So we have to wait or figure out a different way to do it safer.
Wonderful.
One of the examples that I have that I could talk about that I don't have personal experience with, but there's a story about a woman called Sarah Jones. Her name was Sarah Jones, and she was the second assistant camera, the person who does the clapper. And she was on a movie called Midnight Rider in Atlanta, Georgia, around 2014, 2015.
Right.
And the director wanted to shoot a scene on a train trestle, which goes over a river. And and it was a dream sequence where they bring this big king-size bed and they put it on the train trestle over the river. And the actor wakes up in the bed and like over the Mississippi River or something like that. I can't remember what river it was, but what happened was that the director and producer wanted to get the shot, and they lied to some folks about whether they had a permit or not, and they went a day early before filming started, and they called it a camera test. And they went to go actually film scenes from the movie, and the first AD failed at her job to stop that from happening. She was aware that was happening. To avoid conflict with the director and producers, she chose to be quiet and to just do what she was told and not, raise a challenge. And what happened is while they were out on that bridge shooting, a train came. They thought that they knew the train schedule, and they did not. And they weren't working with the train people to shut down, or the Department of Transportation to shut down the train tracks to keep it safe. And a train came, and it became a scene like Stand By Me, where the whole crew is running down the trestle away from the train as it's coming, and the train hit the bed exploded, and a piece of debris flew and hit Sarah into the path of the train, and she was killed.
Oh
and,
my goodness.
And so now, if you watch the behind the scenes of a movie, and for the last 10 years, anytime you see the slate, the clapper slate thing, look for a little sticker that says, "For Sarah," or "Sarah Jones," or "Remember Sarah." They're on slates all over Hollywood.
No
now.
way.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's an interesting
and
tidbit.
Sarah Jones' family created like the Sarah Jones Safety Organization that works with producers and governments to make movie sets safer places. Because movie sets are actually very dangerous working environments. There's very heavy equipment all around. There's lots of cords everywhere to trip on. There's lots of heavy moving vehicles. They're very dangerous places. Now, we as people in society navigate dangerous places all the time. We drive through intersections all the time, but we have traffic lights in place to make that. There are still accidents, but we take steps to mitigate the danger, right? So it's a big part of our job to mitigate that danger. And sometimes the conflict of the creative vision becomes conflict with the safety, and we have to figure out a compromise for that.
Got it.
So that could be a big challenge.
Has anyone yelled at you because they're like, hey, stop telling me what to do?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yep, absolutely.
I'm just curious because if I was an assistant director and I'm telling them, hey, stop, and the director's telling me, well, shut up, I'm gonna start throwing hands.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to commit to violence,
right?
But you are at work, and there are lots of times where I've said to the producer, like I've told the director that we need to move on, and the director's saying no. Then it's kind of out of my hands, and I pass the shit up.
Oh.
Right. So,
and then if you want to deal with it, you can deal with it.
Yeah, because and ultimately, I am the assistant director, and the director is who I'm working for. And if the director doesn't want to take my advice or doesn't think that what I'm doing is in their interest, that's totally fine for them. We just have to work it out with production and producers around how to resolve the conflict.
Well, that's awesome. I didn't know that. That's a really amazing insight from you.
Yeah.
Real quick, that's all the time we have for today. So I thank you for taking your time. Is there anything you want to plug into the socials?
You can find me on Instagram at ADDaddy. I had originally thought that I could write a blog about being a dad and being an assistant director in Hollywood. And what happened is that I was so busy being an assistant director in Hollywood and being a dad that I couldn't write about any of it. But I kept the name. So ADDaddy and Instagram.
All right. So that was all of us from Torn Reels. We did interviews here at Fan Fusion. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And thank you for tuning in.